Success of movies such as the Star Wars franchise and Indiana Jones, it comes no surprise that George Lucas is one of the most well-established writers in modern cinema. But what makes him so popular and his movies so fascinating to audiences all around the world? Born in Modesto, California, in the year of 1944, Lucas grew up with Buddhist Methodist beliefs. This is why he incorporates mythology and religion into his work, himself stating, "I consciously set about to recreate myths and the classic mythological motifs." This is very clear when looking at the Star Wars franchise and how its ideas of the Force and the Jedi religion are based all around his personal beliefs. A lot of the questions of morality within the movies also revolve around Jedis, using this as an easier vessel in order to convey Lucas's own moral values. This links into the next common theme in his writing, using myths to comment on social and political issues in the world. As will be discussed within this essay, it is simply common sense that a lot of George Lucas's writing centers around real political issues, conveyed through fantasy storytelling, not only making it entertaining, but also something we can all learn from. When asked whether he purely wants to make a good action movie or whether he thinks about what he puts in his films, in an interview, Lucas said, "Well, when I did Star Wars, I consciously set about to recreate myths and the classic mythological motifs, and I wanted to use those motifs to deal with issues that existed today." The significance of colour within Lucas's work is huge, with himself admitting, in a very obvious statement of course, "I use colour a lot in my films." This signifies good and bad philosophy, and is how Lucas chooses to show the difference in characters best summarised in the display blog. The blue lightsaber colour signifies justice, truth and serenity. Green represents growth, harmony and nature. Red symbolises anger, strength, determination and so on. This is how he distinguishes between characters that are morally ambiguous, perceived as the good guys, or perceived as the villain. Previously discussed, religion plays a huge part in the Star Wars franchise. A lot of questions of morality within the movie revolve around Jedis, using this as an easier vessel in order to convey Lucas's own moral values. As he says, "Things that I really got from Joe Campbell, the religions, and how he aims to tell an old myth in a new way." In turn, Lucas implements what he grew up with into his work, not straying away from his humble beginnings. George Lucas, unsurprisingly, not only specialises in the writing of movies and perhaps directing, he also actually pioneered the move into digital film, saying, "The quality stays consistent," in another short but correct statement. Although a controversial decision regarding digitalising Star Wars with the not-so-good CGI at the time, Lucas still maintained a style with which he was inspired to adopt after watching 2187, a short film from 1964. He began to use 16mm cameras until eventually deciding to take up digital cameras instead. Populism is a topic that is arguably rarely presented in media, let alone huge films such as Star Wars. This didn't stop George Lucas, though, in making sure he addressed such issues in his work. Most recognisably, his quote in Revenge of the Sith, "So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause." Using Padme as a messenger of his views after Palpatine, a leader elected due to populism, is elected to power. Like with his other social commentary, this use of film to convey that has become one of the most notable quotes from the franchise still to this day. George Lucas has large themes of anti-fascism with his reoccurring motifs of the good guy killing Nazis. This is not only in Star Wars, but the main plotline in a lot of the Indiana Jones films, which he helped to write, not so much direct, alongside Steven Spielberg. The most notable example, apart from the obvious in Indiana Jones, is the stormtroopers in Star Wars, which are based off the Sturmabteilung in Nazi Germany, continuing Lucas' commentary of the real world through his work. Like with anti-fascism, another view of Lucas's is regarding the Vietnam War, which killed around 60,000 Americans. Having lived through watching these events, Lucas quite obviously formed a very strong opinion on the matter. After being rejected from the military due to his diabetes, Lucas made sure to critique the overall issue with the war, preaching anti-war messages in his work, as he says himself. "I love history, so while the psychological basis of the Star Wars franchise is mythological, the political and social bases are historical," linking back to his anti-fascist messaging in which he references history of the Second World War. The entire idea of the Empire is also very much based around the Nazi Party. A bit of a random but touching feature in George Lucas's filmmaking is his passion for fast vehicles and racing. This explains the appearance of racing in a lot of his films, such as the Star Wars franchise and even before that in American Graffiti. The reason for this is the car crash Lucas faced as a young person which ended his dreams of racing, yet he still vows to incorporate racing into his work to pay homage to his past and traumatic experiences. Lucas has been said to use John in American Graffiti as a vision of what could have been. I like racing, I love the speed, and I'm a very kinetic person in terms of filmmaking. I love the movement of film more than anything else. While many other films of the period used futuristic, polished architecture for their films, creating a trend of pristine sets, Lucas set out to change this. He believed that films should have a used or inhabited look, which creates his distinct style he is known for with the Star Wars franchise. This makes him stand out from his fellow directors and writers, making him a beloved icon with generations, whether you grew up with his films or happened to fall in love later on.